This talk is all about building resilience in a post-Brexit Britain. So that's it. We have finally left the EU. And whether you think that is a wise move or not a wise move, it is done, and we do have a deal, and it's time to simply move on and really start thinking about what a post-Brexit Britain looks like, and start working together to build resilient businesses that will contribute and can contribute to building this post-Brexit global vision for Britain. So before we get into that, can't move my screen forwards. There we go. Here we are. This is our BiZHUB 2021 year planner, and I'm just doing this to position this talk in our yearly program. So here we are in January 2021, and the theme is Your Post-Brexit Business. It's the second event of the month. The first one was Keith's talk on UK GDPR and the impact that that might have on your small business. So yeah, here we are at the beginning of 12 months of our journey through 2021. And are we ready? Are we resilient? Are we ready for 2021? So if you missed last week's talk, it was the first part of our post-Brexit business theme. You can access Keith's excellent talk right here on the website. If you're a member, then just go to the members area and log in. We've obviously changed years, so now we've got 3 years down the left-hand column there, 2021, and this event that I'm doing now and Keith's event will be up there for you to watch back at your leisure. So moving forwards, a little bit about me. So, you know, if you know all this stuff already, do bear with me. Oh, hang on, I've skipped a slide forward, forgive me. Right, so this talk will be available as on the website, as I've said. It will be available as a PDF on the website in the resources area as well. And for the first time, the post-Brexit talks are also going to be available as a workbook, which, as Lou was saying earlier, are going to form part of a new members-only session next week, which is the collaboration session. So a lot of the things I'm going to be talking about today, and particularly a lot of the tools, will be referenced again next week. So don't worry, there's a lot to take in today, but we've got another week to really dig into the content there. So yeah, about me. I always think it's nice to know a little bit about the person that's standing up in front of you and talking, particularly if you've never met them before. So yeah, if you've heard this before, sorry, I'll go through it quite quickly. But I started off studying Russian at university, Russian and Soviet studies, actually, it was that long ago. And I went, and my first job was in Moscow working for the BBC. And then I came back and got a proper job here in London at a company called Petroleum Argus, where I was responsible for setting oil prices in the Mediterranean and oil prices for crude oil going through the friendship pipelines in Russia. So yeah, great job, really interesting, used my Russian and everything was going really well. And then I just decided that I had really itchy feet and I was very into my skydiving at the time. So I decided at that point to become self-employed and go full-time into the skydiving industry and make my living as a packer of parachutes, which I did for several years. I had a great time. I hooked up with a company called Exotic Sky Adventures, did a lot of traveling, a lot of jumping, a lot of packing of parachutes. But the time came, and in fact, my first business was in skydiving. I set up a business making skydiving sportswear for people to wear underneath their jumpsuits. That was all a long time ago. I sold that business actually when I had my first son, so that was 21 years ago now. Sold it for £10,000, which seemed like a huge amount of money at the time. And then I carried on doing various bits and pieces, but always self-employed. I've been self-employed ever since in one guise or another, which brings us forward to about 2012, I think it was, when I set up the Farnham Hub, which is the business that eventually evolved and grew into the business that we are, you know, all within today, this morning. So the work that I did setting up the Farnham Hub, which was bringing small businesses together in Farnham, was spotted by the Borden Regeneration Company. They asked me to come and start something similar here in Borden, which we did. And as Lou said, we're turning 3, and we've actually been in this Signal building now, obviously the virtual building that we're in now, for almost 3 years. It's our birthday next month. And I have to say that after the year that we've just had, celebrating that birthday is going to be really quite special. So, we've come through a really tough year. It's not been a picnic running this business or any business through 2020. So I'm really looking forward to celebrating that milestone, next month. So on to the topic of resilience. Excuse me a moment. Resilience is something that we usually talk about as part of a kind of package of business strategy. It's one of those things that we know we should be thinking about, we know we need it, we know we should build it into our business, but it's never really been as front and centre to small business as it is now after the year that we've just had. And in fact, we ran a whole month on planning for disaster in October 2019, which seems like a really extraordinary long time ago now. Let's have a look at it. I've got it here. So yes, again, you can access all of the talks from 2019 here in your account, your members account in the website, inside something called BiZHUB resources. And if you don't know how to do that, please do ask a member of the team. Make sure you have your login, because there's so much stuff in here. I'm going to be referring to quite a lot of it today and again next week. So here we are, October 2019. You can see that the first talk was planning for disaster, how safe is your business? And it just feels really strange now that at that point we were 2 months away from hearing about this virus that had originated in Wuhan in China. We knew nothing about what was about to come our way. But interestingly, we were still talking about planning for disaster. And the reason for that is that just as we were talking about planning for disaster before COVID-19, although we did know about Brexit, we didn't know anything about COVID-19, people have always talked in business about contingency planning and planning for disaster. And there is a reason for that, which is that business is never safe. You are never safe. There are always external threats, there are internal threats. There are so many things that can go wrong. So building internal resilience, and that's personal resilience, structural resilience, all kinds of resilience into your business whenever you can at every opportunity is really vital if your business is going to survive everything that life and the universe is going to throw at it. So let's have a little think about some of the things that might go wrong. I mean, Mark Beresford touched on some of them in his planning for disaster, the financial talk that I just referenced, some of the financial things that can go wrong that you can mitigate for, but things like increases in VAT, a rise in tax on dividends, and these things can be catastrophic for small businesses. But think about maybe a sudden loss of mobility for you, or a loss of health for you or somebody else in your organization or somebody else in your family. And those things can also be business critical, and they must be mitigated for. I know for a fact that a couple of people actually in the BiZHUB both had floods in their homes last year. I think one of them's here with us today. These floods that are caused by tiny leaks can also be disastrous. And it happened to me a couple of years ago as well. And I had to move out of my home for 6 months just because of a leak behind the washing machine that had been going on for 2 years without anyone noticing. And those things, I had to rebuild the whole downstairs of my house. That really can get in the way of running an efficient business. So obviously you can't plan for everything, but you can put things in place to protect you against the worst things happening. And I mean, the fact is that these events that all of you in the room today will have some kind of body blow over the next 12 months. I mean, it's almost certain, and probably they will have nothing to do with Brexit or even COVID-19. A nice cheerful thought for you. So I managed to get out to Naples last September to visit my sister, and my sister married a Neapolitan 25 years ago, and they lived right at the foot of Vesuvius. It was a live active volcano, and so I asked my brother-in-law, how do you cope with being one of the 3 million people that if that volcano erupts, you're in danger of being trapped or being or been killed, and you have to live with that every day. And he said the biggest danger is not Vesuvius, because we know that that's being looked after and carefully monitored. The biggest danger, and the thing we're really scared about, is the volcano that nobody knows exists yet because it has never erupted. So with that in mind, it's a really good illustration, I think, of the fact that the thing that is most likely to get you is the one that you won't see coming. So given that it's incredibly difficult to predict the future, what's just around the corner, there we were talking about planning for disaster in October 2019 with no idea what was coming at us. How are we supposed to build resilience into our businesses so that we can withstand these kinds of shocks and surprises? Well, I think it's kind of more like a daily practice. So I've identified 15 areas which I think all of you and us actually, part of, I think, part of what we do is at Signal is, be a small business alongside you guys. So this applies as much to us and my business and the things that I need to think about as it does apply to all of you. I'm not standing here saying that we've got all of this right. There are areas for us to improve here as well. So here are my 15 areas for you to improve resilience. And you might want to get out a pen and paper, actually, just maybe score yourself on each of these 15 points. Like, how well do you think your business is managing this area right now? And if you could make a note of that, because it'd be quite interesting to come back to it in the second part of the session, where we're going to be discussing how we can improve resilience. Okay, so the first three, these are not going to seem no surprise to any of you that these are included, and I know they're so basic, but if you're not paying attention to these three things, your business will fail. So these are red lines. So make sure you're looking at HMRC deadlines. Don't let this be the thing that kills your business. A resilient business is one that's really on top of its paperwork all the time. Just a regular call with your accountant and bookkeeper. Make sure you've got that paperwork in the right place. Make sure you're opening your post. And if you do get into difficulty, it's really easy to pick up the phone and talk to HMRC. I know they take a while to answer, but if you call them before they call you, there's always a discussion to be had and time to pay, and they're really reasonable. The number 2 on my list is pay attention to cash flow. Use a cash flow forecast to look ahead and see if and when you might run into difficulty. And I think ideally in a resilient business, you would have 3 to 6 months income or cash or operational revenue inside your bank account, ready for that day when things go wrong, or a customer doesn't pay you, or you end up in hospital, or whatever it is that happens. There should be a cash cushion there. But I do understand that for most businesses, especially in the early stages, that's just a dream to have that much money in an account waiting. So what can you do? You can keep an eye on the cash flow forecast. Obviously you can use credit cards, but it's not ideal. And one of the things you could do perhaps at the moment that's not normally something that's available to us is to take out some of this cheap business financing that the government are offering in the form of bounce back loans. We've talked about this before. There's a blog on our website called Will You Take Your Chance to Bounce Back that sort of outlines the rationale for borrowing this money, because it's very low interest rates and it's fixed, and it's over 10, the repayments are over 10 years now. They've extended them. They're quite likely to extend them again. So, even if you don't need that money right now, that kind of borrowing will not always be available to you. So it might be worth thinking about taking it out and just putting it somewhere where it might just to use if you need it. And the third one on this page, again, super obvious, but look after your health. And if 2020 has taught us anything, it's that literally nothing works unless your health is good. It's true of the country, it's true of your business, and it's true of you. So find a way to build healthy and positive routines into every day, and don't overwork and don't overstress, and take some time to take some downtime as well. And, you know, as we always say at Signal, take some time to reward yourself for the things that you have achieved, and make sure you actively think about that. Celebrate your wins. And that's why we try and do that with you every week here at the BiZHUB, because it's so important. Next, we have create a continuity plan. So again, you know, 2020 was a reminder to all of us to have those continuity plans in place. And it's easy to do. Just sit down with your team or with your partner or even on your own and just write down all the things that you think might or could potentially go wrong and create a problem for your business. And come up with a basic plan to mitigate as many of those things as you can. I mean, maybe they won't all be possible. But one thing that's for definite is it's really hard to make good business decisions when you are in the crisis. So when it's already happened, you're in the ambulance or whatever. So have a plan ready for when those things happen. Invest in personal development. You know, you are your key asset. You are your #1 asset, the most valuable asset that your business has. So any money or time that you invest in making yourself better, whether that's increasing your skill levels, whether it's getting another professional qualification, whether it's learning leadership skills, whether it's spending time doing mindset activities, whatever it is going to make you a better leader and a better owner of your business, then it's going to be a really, really good investment to make. And it will help you become a more resilient business. Develop your vision. We talk about vision a lot. Vision is absolutely key. And when we come onto the strategy map later, you can't really build strategy unless you have already articulated your vision. I know that most of you in the room will have a very clear vision set out already, and probably goals to help you get there as well. But if you haven't, just imagine bumping into somebody that you haven't seen for 5 years and explaining to them what you have achieved in your business over the last 5 years, and, you know, really give it your best case scenario. Why are you so proud of it? Because you did what you set out to do, you've done what you wanted to do. And that will be the beginning of your vision for your business, and then, you know, develop it. So just to give you an example, for those of you who haven't already heard it, our vision at Signal is to make Borden the best place to run a small business in the UK. So that vision keeps us guided, if you like. It's like a true north. So whenever anybody asks you anything, if you want to do something, invest in something, try something, buy something, you ask yourself, well, is it going to get me closer to that goal of making Borden the best place in the UK to run a small business? And we talk about this all the time in the team. It does make decision making so much easier if you know where you're going and why you're going there as well. So if somebody comes to me like they did recently and asks me if I want to invest in a co-working space in Hazelmere, I know that the answer is no, because it's not going to help us get any closer to our vision. Oh, wrong way. So on this page, learn to manage mindset and motivation. So when you have to self-motivate every day, this is really, really important. And if you are a sole trader and you work on your own, as I know many of you do, you can learn to improve these things. It's not something you're necessarily born with, you know, high motivation. You can learn how to create a good mindset and how to motivate yourself. And in fact, we're devoting a whole month to this, as Stu and Lou said in the introduction. Next month is Mindset and Motivation Month. So, you know, put that on your to-do list and come along, put it in your diary. Next, get comfortable with strategy. Now, I know that most small businesses don't really think a lot about strategy, and that is because they are so busy. We are all so busy just dealing with what is in front of us, dealing with the day-to-day. So we kind of get done what has to get done, and we move forwards, and we let everything else pretty much take care of itself. We don't have MBAs, we're not trained in business strategy, we didn't study it, and so it's kind of a nice to have, and it gets left. I actually did a course last year, at the end of last year. Something else the government made available as a result of the pandemic was some proper strategic training for small businesses, which I managed to get a place on, and I know that Lee did too, if you're in the room. And I've really enjoyed it, because it was an academic approach, but which I could then reverse apply to my 20 years of business experience, and I found it incredibly interesting and got so many insights. So this strategic approach to business is something that probably most people don't have time to do. So we have put together something called a strategy map that is designed to help people, to help you guys look at your strategic thinking and look at your business from some different perspectives. And I'm going to come on to that in a minute. Finally, on this page, plan for your future. As Stu said, this is something we're looking at in March, so I don't need to discuss it here, but this is something really simple, like make sure you have an exit plan, make sure that your activities today are aligned with how you want your future to look, whether that's, you know, a big thing like getting an exit plan together, or a small thing like making sure that you've got a financial plan to have a holiday next year. We'll be covering all of that in March. Next up, peripheral vision. So again, a bit like the strategic thinking, it's very easy as a small business to look just at what is immediately in front of you, to look at your desk and your screen and your client list and your job list and your to-do list. And very rarely do people lift their heads up and actually look all around them, and think about their business in, you know, political, social, economic context. But it's really important that you do that, and, you know, have a look. You spend some time looking at what your competitors are doing. Well, you know, what do they think is important? What's being said in your industry at the moment? Do you read industry publications? How does your business fit into what's going on in the news? You know, what are the trends that are coming in 2021? What are the things that are going to change the way that we do business? So we have put together something called a horizon scanner. I'm going to come on to that at the end as well, the tools. So to help you lift your head up, look around you, and put your business into the context of, you know, where you live, your locality, your country, and the time in which you live as well. And, you know, on this, as making climate change a priority is a kind of a similar thing. You know, climate change is a huge crisis that's going on right now, and nations, particularly the UK, are really starting to pay attention to this, and business has a huge role to play in helping the country get to net zero. We all have a role to play in that, and I think making climate change, or making carbon zero a priority in your business, and really seeing how your business fits into this this framework of carbon zero, is something that you must do as a priority. And this year, it's going to be very much front and centre of everybody's minds. We've got G7, we've got the climate change conference. So it's a good time to think about how your business is going to help the country reach its carbon zero goals. And the reason I put it in with resilience is because I think your customers are going to want to see you doing that. And I think the point has come when, you know, to be a competitive, resilient business, you need to be paying attention to this. You can't ignore it. Nurturing key relationships. We talk about relationships obviously a lot at the hub. You know, one of the things that you're doing when you come to the hub is building on good relationships, you know, people that will support you and your business. And if you want to increase resilience in your business, one of the things that you can do is work on those key relationships. At the moment, I know it's really hard for businesses to work on their relationships. You know, we can't go anywhere, we can't see anybody, but at the same time, it's more important now than it's ever been to make sure that you're making these relationships a priority. And you do have tools available to you, however sick and tired you are of Zoom, you still have the telephone. It's really nice, just pick the phone up and give somebody a telephone call, let them know that you are thinking about them, let them know that they're valuable to you, your business, or to you personally. Or maybe even send them something in the post. Post is working perfectly well, and I think at the moment would be a really nice time to let people know by sending them something in the post, let people know how valuable they are to you. Just a thought, because the more key relationships you have that are really warm and effective and working and current, the more resilient your business will be. And final three, yes, as well as looking out for and looking after the relationships that your business already has, to stay resilient, you have to constantly actively seek out new partnerships. So look around you, the people that you respect, you admire, people in your industry, people perhaps, could you collaborate with them? Could you work on a project with them? Could you help them? Is there any way that you can work together? Because partnerships are, again, are a way of building resilience, diversity, and sort of new blood into your business. And the last two are really self-explanatory, but if you have a team, they are your most important, your most valuable, your most expensive asset. So make sure that you're checking in with them, look after them, do everything that you can to make sure they know that they're valued and supported, particularly now when we're all working remotely. Just really important to keep that going. It's easy to let people drift, I think, at the moment. But a simple phone call usually is all it takes to put that right. And finally, look after yourself. Are you okay? What could be better? Is there anything you could do to, make yourself just feel a bit more happy and more energized and more able to cope with the day-to-day grind of running a business? So I would advise spending time away from the office, preferably outside, thinking through, is this going well for me? Am I doing this well? And if not, what can I do to improve things? So that's it. Those are the 15 different areas for improving resilience in your business. And I hope that you've made a few notes, and we will come back to that in the second half of the session. So to finish, we've got 4 tools to help you with building a resilient business that will help you go back to those 15 areas and see how you are doing. First one is a strategy map, which I spoke about. This is a Signal designed strategy map, which allows you to write down your goals, break them down into mini goals, put a number on them, so a key performance indicator, an actual number, a smart, measurable, achievable goal, if you like. Record where this data that you need is going to be in your business. Is it going to be within Xero on a profit and loss sheet? Is it going to be on a CRM? Do you have the right tools to collect and measure and use that data professionally? And then the review column, who is going to review whether you are moving towards this goal or not? And is that going to be a management team? Is it you? Is it a marketing team? Is it somebody else? And how often are you going to do that? So we've got 4 perspectives for the goals, which is what I think is interesting. So the first one is financial. If you're going to achieve your vision that we spoke about, what are the financial goals that you have to hit this year, let's say? And then the second perspective, the customer view, is this question. In order for me to achieve those financial goals, what do I need my customers to think about my business? What should my customers be saying to each other and to other people about the business? What would they say if somebody asked them? And in this section, you put what you want your customers to be saying about you. And then this goes on to 2 pages. They look really similar. So sorry, this is the second page and there's 2 more perspectives. The first is the prospect view. What are your potential customers saying about you? What are they hearing about you? You know, are they hearing anything at all about you? Where are they seeing your output? And what would you like them to be thinking and saying and seeing of your business? And then finally, in order for those things to happen with your customers and your potential customers, what do you need to improve internally? So this final section, the internal view, that's a process. It's a process view. So I'm going to come to a quick worked example. I've just realised I'm not timing this Team Signal. So although I know it's 10:20, I don't know how much time I've got left exactly. So if you want to pop a note in or tell me, then go ahead. If you need me to speed up or slow down. So this is the worked example of the strategy map. Financial view. I think this is fairly self-explanatory. So I'm just going to move on to the customer view. So in order to reach my financial goals, I put turnover 10% increase here. What do I need my customers to think about me? So for example, do you want your customers to think you're reliable? And what does that mean? I don't know how well you can read this, it's quite small type, but it says, we do what we say we will do when we say we will do it. So that's the goal. Problem with that is, how do you know that that is the perception? Well, there's a number of ways you could do it, but one example here is you could say, well, I want 75% of my customers to agree with that statement, or probably if it's reliable, probably want 95% of your customers to agree with that statement. But how are you going to know? So what data are you going to collect to make sure that that goal is realistic and is being realized? So you could, in this instance, you could do a customer survey, and you could send it out to all of your customers, and you could say that we want 95% or whatever you agree of those customers to agree with the statement, this business does what it says it's going to do, when it says it's going to do it, you know, on time, on budget. So the customer survey needs to be done, and then who is going to review it? Well, I put management team in this instance, depending on how many people you have in your business, it might be you. And then you can choose how often you review it. And I've put here annually, because I don't think, well, I don't know, you might want to do a customer survey every month, but let's say annually would be more realistic. And then coming to the bottom part of the strategy map, if, for example, that customer survey is something you don't yet have in place, that is something that will come down here and it will be put into internal view. So where do we need to improve? Well, we need to design a customer survey and set up a process for sending it out to our customers. And we want to do that annually. And the person responsible for that is this person, and they need to do it by this date. So just to take one quick example from the prospect view, what might you want your potential customers to say about you? Well, you might want them to say, this company writes great newsletters. You know, I really look forward to receiving their newsletter. It's full of useful content, and it makes me want to buy their stuff. So your mini goal would be perhaps more opens and clicks on your newsletter, showing more engagement. You might put a number on that of 4% increase month on month or on last year. And the data you would collect through your CRM system, if you have one. And again, if you don't have one, then you say, well, perhaps we need to pop this down in internal view. Somebody needs to build a customer relationship database within the company. And I put reviewed by management team and monthly. So you can see how the strategy map works. So from the point of view of the financial target, what do your customers need to think for you to achieve that financial target? Because obviously the customers, that's where the money's coming from. And in order to get those customers, what do your prospects need to see of your business? This is a marketing issue, obviously. And the internal view, if those things are going to happen, what do we have to do internally? What changes do we have to make How are we going to make them, and when? And I put here, so imagine that what you need is a really great newsletter, and you've identified that as the key strategy that you need in your business right now to increase your customers and increase your revenue. And you've identified that you need to improve your newsletter. So you put that down here in internal view. And you think, well, how do we do that? Because we haven't got any more resources, so it's not possible. But if you think about it, you could just send out the newsletter less frequently so that you have double the amount of time to spend making that content really great, really on message, making sure that the customer journey from reading the newsletter to clicking through to the website is just a little bit slicker. And you may see that just from making that tiny change, you get more opens and clicks on your newsletter, more visits to the website, more purchases, and you get a little bit closer towards your financial goals. So it could be something that simple that you wouldn't think about unless you went through this process. So I think that's it for strategy map. The second tool is the business plan. I don't need to talk about that here because we have talked about it before. And here is the resources page of the members area of the website once more. And as you can see, there's various resources that you can use. The two key ones here are the business plan template, which is a standard business plan template. So if you haven't done a business plan, now's the moment. And we also have here the growth planner, which is a one-page business planning tool that we have also talked about. We talked about it a lot last year. In fact, we sent everybody one last year to fill out. So if you want another copy of that, it's right here in the resources area of the website. The third tool I'm going to talk about is something that I use, and it's a dashboard. It's an online dashboard. I don't know how many of you use these, but I just find it incredibly useful. I hope you can see, to have everything on one screen. So this is a tool called Cyphe, cyfe.com. There are other versions available, but this is a very simple way of taking screens from 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 apps and putting them together in one screen. So you can have that screen open and you can see this information all the time. So here, this example, I have Active Campaign, which is my CRM system, our CRM system, and I have I can see new most recent opens and clicks on 2 of the most recent campaigns there. In the middle, I've got Xero. You can have any screen from your Xero app or any whatever financial digital app you use, platform you use. So you could have the P&L, or you could have, you know, your creditors or your debtors, or your monthly revenues, whatever you like, really. Or you can have all of them. You can have as many screens as you like from every platform. I've got 2 Eventbrite screens here. These are the next 2 Eventbrite events, number of bookings. And here I have Google Analytics, which is telling me daily website visits. And here I have the same website visits underneath, broken down into different social media platforms. So you can go on, you can have your social media platforms on there, you can have any insights. I mean, it's really good, Cyphe. It has pretty much every app that you can think of. And they all have these little chart representations that you can bring into your dashboard. So yeah, I hope that's useful. I really like it. I think it's good to be able to get that kind of health check for the business just at a quick glance. And finally, this is another one that we have created for you, and it's something called a horizon scanner. And this is the bit about lifting your head up and looking all around you. And it's really just a checklist to remind you to look at certain things. It invites you to look at your 3 closest competitors and just have a little look at what they're doing, for example, and just write that down. So it would be a good idea to build in horizon scanning as an activity that you do every month or every 6 months, just to check in with what is happening outside of your business that could have a real impact on your business. So after the, well, we're not having a break, are we? So I want to say after the break, but we're going to go to a meeting format in a minute. And this is the question that we're going to be talking about. How resilient is your business right now? And how have you stayed resilient through 2020? Because we've all got some skills in that area now, haven't we? After the year that was, you know, that was our year, that last year, goodness me, and it's not over yet. unfortunately. So those skills that we've learned about staying resilient and staying on top of our business, staying on top of our health and our mental well-being, those skills are going to be really useful going into 2021 and forwards as well, because I don't think this year is going to be particularly easy either, unfortunately. So what I would like to see is that everybody's sharing those tips, because you all know as much about this as I do, how to keep going when everything around you is falling apart. So just before we go to that format, I just want to end on this idea of global Britain. So, Brexit, it's done. We have a deal. You can argue about the weeds. There's a lot of negotiation that's going to have to continue. Whether you think it's been a good idea or not a good idea, it kind of isn't relevant now, because this is where we are. And whether you think that global Britain is a fantasy or whether you think it's a reality, the truth is that there are opportunities now around this idea of building a new Britain for the future. And I think something that I said at Christmas was, when we had that address, it was like this year, 2020, last year, sorry, business got a lot closer to government and policy. And I do think that we have a real opportunity. People are listening to us now in a way they just haven't done before. And I have been going to the CBI briefings. Sometimes they run them on a Monday and a Wednesday. They're free to go to, and they talk about the political impacts of what's happening on business and what business can do to respond to that. And they take what business says and they take it to government and they try and shape policy that way quite effectively. And the government are listening to business at the moment, and business are going to be so important in the coming years when we try and rebuild after the pandemic. We're going to be front and center. Business recovery is going to be absolutely critical to this country. So I think that's why they're listening. So, for example, the CBI is asking people like me and people like you to literally email them with what they think is needed. Email with what we think is needed for a really successful economic recovery. What does business need? What does business need to get this vision for a global Britain that is successful, that is world leading, that has a regenerating and regenerative economy that leads the way in the world, that can do good in the world? What needs to happen? And we can all take part in that. Literally just let me know if you have any ideas, and we can feed them straight into government. So I think that idea of having a voice, and this whole idea of building a resilient business, is about having a business that is successful and strong enough to move into this next decade and to do some good, to have a positive impact, and to help with this global recovery, and to help with building the vision for a global Britain. So I also noticed that the government, for example, are running a competition for the private sector to develop a government policy, and there's a prize of £25,000. So it's that sort of thing that's being headed up by Michael Gove. There aren't many details at the moment, but I'm going to try and find out more because it just sounds really interesting. I just love this idea that government are asking the private sector to develop policy and to really tell them what we think about economic recovery, because obviously we know a lot about it. So that's everything from me today. Just to end on the note that the Spanish flu last century was followed by the Roaring Twenties. So I just hope that if we all build this resilience into our business, we can all take part as business owners in what I really hope is going to be our own version of the Roaring Twenties in the 21st century. That's it from me. Thank you all for listening. Okay.
Wow, thank you, Emma.
Hello.
Wonderful.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
Do you want to stop sharing your screen, Emma?
Yeah, doing it. Got it. Oh, there we go.
Wow. Really useful insights and some key points there.
And can I just say, I mean, how, and I'm sure everybody will join me in this, how lucky and privileged we are, Emma, to have you in our community,
Oh.
because you've really got your finger on the pulse with all these, you know, all these different things that most of us just don't even know about, but you're out there, you're searching it, you're finding it, you're bringing it to us. So really appreciate that. And honestly,
couldn't do it without the team behind me, obviously.
no, but still, it's, you
Going
know,
every day.
you got your finger on the pulse, and you know, you bring things to us and we're like, oh gosh, we didn't know about that. So I'm sure everybody, when we bring them into the room, will all join us in thanking you for that.
Oh, thank you.
A really great talk. Really good talk.
Good. I enjoyed it.
I'm going to start letting people into the room now, and do please unmute and switch on your video when you're asked to join us, and we'll be going through all of those points and more. Your questions, we'll be asking you stuff. It's going to be great. So here we go. Brilliant. I do love the idea of the roaring 20s as well.
I know.
I'm thinking
I wish I had little,
yeah, I'm thinking
little feather to wear. Yeah.
Thinking dancing. I'm loving that idea.
If we say it often enough, it will become true.
Exactly.
So just keep saying roaring 20s, roaring 20s.
Exactly. Yeah. I think so. I'm looking forward to that, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Not to put a downer on it, but weren't the roaring 20s then followed by the depression of the 30s?
Yes, I know, but don't talk about that.
Thank you, Lee. We're not thinking about that right now.
We'll be retired by then, Lee. Won't we?
No, we can plan ahead for it though, and then stop it happening.
Yeah, put a bit by. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's horizon scanning, isn't it?
It is indeed.
30 years.
Morning, everybody. Lovely to see you.
Morning.
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 Don't be slighted if you're one of the later ones that I am allowing to become a panelist. I can only do them one at a time. Not allow all, unfortunately. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
And lovely to see you all.
Hello. Lovely to see you.
Oh, and there's Sue Griffiths. I haven't seen you for a while. Hi, Sue.
Yeah. Oh, some people we haven't seen for ages.
Yeah, lovely.
Excellent. Lovely. Good to see you all. Yes. Okay. So, Emma, where would you like to start? I thought your final few questions was a good place to start, and that would give us a mood in the room. So I'd like to just ask the room just your impression of how resilient your business is right now. We'll come to the second question in a minute, but how resilient is your business right now? We'll just take a poll of the room. Angie Brown, how resilient do you think your business is? As somebody who has pivoted, as Dane was saying, and has bounced back and been fairly resilient in 2020, how resilient do you think your business is right now, maybe as compared to where it was a year or so ago?
Well, I think it's got a lot more structure. I think I know my audience better. I know what direction I'm going in. So the pivot for me was really good because it made me realize what I really didn't like doing, and made me realize what I really did. So I'm concentrating on building that and strengthening those points.
Okay, and how have you stayed resilient?
I don't know. I hate being put on the spotlight without being prepared.
Sorry.
I have that mentality where you're only going to push down for a little while. So the resilience is quite high. I kick my own ass a lot. It's the only way because no one else is going to do it for me. But I've really, really appreciated the love and support I've had from this particular group. You know, I know that I had weekly calls with Sarah Bass, and she absolutely helped me through. She held my hand a lot of the way. And having you all there was just brilliant. So yeah, it's really helped me to sort of focus on what's happening next.
Fantastic. Somebody else whose business I know a little bit about, Sue Griffiths, how resilient is your business right now? We haven't seen you for a little. We're hoping that everything is going along. How resilient do you think your business is right now?
Unmute.
You are on mute. Is it not unmuting? Oh, there we go.
Still a technophobe.
Yeah, I think my business is fairly resilient. I mean, I've completely changed, pivoted in a big way. I'm almost 90% of my sales are now online. So obviously the shops closing had a huge effect on my year last year. And I just had to change things. So from the mini mastermind that I attended back in, I think it was around May, when I was in a real panic because I'd bought about £6,000 worth of stock that I didn't really know what I was going to do with. Things really changed, and I put the stock online and just kept buying and buying, and I've been super busy. So I think resilience. I've been resilient, and I still continue to be resilient. And obviously, we don't know what's around the corner. I don't know when the shops are opening again. So I'm just doing all I can to just keep going.
So the way things have moved, you have adapted to that, and it's been of benefit to your business and selling stuff online and shipping stuff direct to people.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. Yeah. I mean, my turnover, my goal was to double my turnover, and I actually quadrupled it. So
wow.
I did. Yeah, I had a good year.
That's a win.
Yeah,
that's a big win.
So it was good. I mean, I've learned lots. I've made lots of mistakes. This year I will do lots of things differently. But yeah, it kind of worked out for me. I know, it's difficult for many people in business, but I was lucky that I could start to sell everything that I'd got apart from the furniture. I could sell online, so I was one of the lucky ones, really.
But you adapted to the evolving situation and didn't collapse in a heap when you had a big pile of stuff and we went into lockdown.
No, well, I almost did, but yeah, I pulled myself together.
There we go. Yeah. So that's staying resilient. Excellent. I'll ask one more person this question, and then we'll come back to Emma. Lee, as somebody who's been in business and seen many different things happen over the years, how do you think how resilient your business is right now and your team?
I think we're relatively resilient. It's not something we'd actually put a plan around or particularly thought about that much before. I mean, when everything's going well, isn't it?
Yeah.
However, perhaps it's my personality or not, I don't know, but we never really spent or done a lot with our profits. So we had been saving profits. So we had quite an amount of retained profits for the last few years, which again is seeing us doing quite well now, because though it's slowly slipping away, it's making sure that we're still here. As far as other things concerned, yes, we're always looking at the cash flow and the figure work. I've got a team here as well, so they're all helping, chipping in where need be. And the financial side of things probably the first thing that you look at when a disaster hits. And I say disaster because I think that's how you should describe this. And when your accountant's doing a great job finding funds, finding grants, finding out how you do this, how you do that, what you can do, and all those things to really help your cash flow. But also, I suppose perhaps it is part of our resilience, is that we've got such a great relationship with our clients, particularly our larger clients who just really trust what we do. When it hit, I had a couple of phone calls and they paid everything they owed us up to date.
Wow.
So, we instantly got a big cash influx straight away because they knew how that would affect us and they still wanted us to be around at the end. So, yes, we got a lot of money in quickly and early in the early days. So our cash flow, our cash position was quite good, and it meant that we had a period of time that we knew we would definitely survive. So resilience is something that perhaps I now will plan for a bit more, and now we'll take some tips that Emma's put there to sort of chart and think about. But if you're running a big business or a business for a long time, I've always believed in the secret. Don't just keep spending money because you got it. Save it, put it away, do something, invest it or whatever. We can also, we've actually managed to use some of the government funding out there for loans to actually cancel or settle off some of the debts that we had and change them to a lot lower interest debt. So instantly you're saving money a month because you've now got a damn sight better interest rate from the government.
And
so there's all sorts of things that
almost it's safer debt because you can talk to and negotiate with them. They're not going to want to have the bad PR of tons of business going out of business. And they've already said that those loans can be quite flexible and have urged the banks to look at extending terms. So that is a smart way of using that influx of cash.
Well, what's really, really good about them is that if you do have any finance agreements out there, which are sort of, you're paying monthly for and you're not getting the benefit of that equipment or whatever it is, by going to the government loan, you get a year free. Now, I'm assuming I've sort of planned a year. This should be virtually over. Fingers crossed. But if you get a year's grace on it, you can then recover and back to where you were before. So there might be a slight fine to settle it out or whatever, but it's certainly a good thing to do to transfer your loans over to a cheaper rate.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. Great. Some great insights there, Emma. Some really interesting ways people. They're even saying, I don't think I've had a resilience plan, but if you have the right numbers, and as we saw there with Lee, he's planned for the future by not just spending everything and having that war chest of cash.
Yeah, it's really hard to plan when you don't know what you're planning for. I think that's the thing. People think about contingency plans and, do you really want to spend money on planning for something that might never happen? It's very difficult for small businesses when you haven't got much in the way of margin or much in the way of money in the bank. I remember hearing about Barclays Bank, who spent after the Twin Towers, which is another thing that had businesses running for their contingency planning teams. Barclays Bank spent a load of money having a separate secret location. So they bought another massive location in London, kept it empty in case their building ever came under threat. And then the pandemic hit. So instead of having like one empty building in London, they had two massive empty buildings, or hundreds, but they had an extra empty building in London. And the problem was they didn't need any buildings at all, not that buildings were coming under threat. So, you see the problems with planning for these things that we can't see coming down the line at all. But I think it's more of a mindset, isn't it? It's being ready and knowing that there's a bit of flex, there's a bit of extra cash, that there's a bit of capacity there to deal with what comes. So if you're running everything very close to the line, obviously it takes nothing to push you over the edge. So Shana, when you were going to take out a loan, did you do that in the end?
No, in the end I didn't. I thought I can manage these two. I'm very different from everybody here. And the support from Forever is just so immense. I've just got to get off my arse and do it. When it comes to resilience, my biggest problem last year was I was resisting. I was absolutely resisting because the business went totally online and I was kind of not going with the flow. I was resisting. And I now that was a very big mistake. It held me back last year, but it ain't holding me back this year. Very interesting on the goal setting one. I don't know how many of you know Brian Main, goalmapping.com. Incredible guy. He's got the most incredible story anyway, which and he does completely free, and then you can upgrade if you want to do more maps. He does goal mapping around all areas of your life in a very, very structured way. And I've actually done one for 3 months to really move my business forward. I look at it every day and I get excited about it. And what the key thing is, it's happening. I've just got one area of the 4 that I have got in place that I've really got to focus on now. And you're all helping, guys. You are all helping me. Thank you.
One thing that I just wanted to say, I love the analogy, Emma, that you made of the volcano, because we all fear things that we know, now we're all fearing another pandemic. We're all fearing that, but we're not, there are things that may happen that we just don't, and that's what we have to just be aware of. So I love that analogy, not to put the fear into everybody, but we just don't know what's going to happen. So it is sort of that lateral thinking, isn't it? Of like, all possibilities and creating a plan around most things.
Well, it's the classic Donald Rumsfeld quote about unknown unknowns, isn't it?
Mm.
And we all laughed at it, but he was absolutely right. You can plan for as much as you like, but it's those things that blindside you at 3 a.m. in the morning that can really set the, cat amongst the pigeons, as they say.
I think perhaps that's why it's important to focus on the little things that we can do. Yeah. So, when we talk about building, we're having a good relationship with our mental well-being, for example. I mean, it doesn't matter what comes at you. Any investment that you can do to make sure that you can stay calm in a crisis is always going to be useful, isn't it? So if you invest in your personal development, understand mindset, motivation, keep your health optimal, and those things are always going to be something you can draw on when the shit hits the fan, aren't they?
Yeah. Lee.
Oh, I was just going to what I was going to say is part of the resilience planning, which I suppose I had done in a way in my head, which was ask the what if questions. In that time scale. So what if there's one of my main employees, it can't come to work for health reasons. What can I do? What would I do then? What if my biggest client goes bust? What do I do then? And have those in your head of those what ifs. And in a way that is resilience planning. I may not be sort of realise it too much, but I tend to have a lot of what ifs and have them up my sleeve as much, mainly sort of out of experience of being working so long. These things can happen, but there are also those unknown what ifs, which you can't plan for those. You just have to use your training experience that you have to solve that at that time, or call on other people like the group to say, actually, what do we do? And someone probably has, actually, I've got a reasonable idea what to do.
Yeah,
Adapt, improvise and overcome.
Sorry. Go on.
No, sorry, Emma, I was just saying, you adapt, you improvise and you overcome. And there's a lot of that in this group, people who have adapted to the change. They've improvised with the best of their abilities, and they've overcome what's in front of them. And I think it's a credit to not just Signal, but the people that are a member of the BiZHUB, that we're here with so many businesses that are making the best of what's in front of them.
Yeah, I think we're all naturally inclined to survive, aren't we? But I think it does help to write these things down. So Lee, you've got it all in your head. It doesn't take very long to make that a document. So maybe we should go around the room and say, just to come up with a what if scenario. The thing might go really badly wrong, because then we've all heard everybody's.
You certainly don't want to get in my head, Emma.
I'll start. What if my guest speaker doesn't turn up to the BiZHUB?
Yeah.
That's my big what if.
Yeah.
We do have a contingency, by the way. Now we do, but yeah.
That was literally a 3 a.m. thought that I sent to Lou. And I was like, I literally had a cold sweat, woke up, had this bad dream of turning up. Lou wasn't there, the speaker wasn't there, nobody could get it. It was like a complete stress dream. That was early on in the pandemic.
Yeah. So I've always had the one that I'm always scared of, and it doesn't really apply now. So I always think, God, if I broke my arm and I couldn't drive, or I broke my leg or my ankle, something really small like that, just fall over and break your ankle, you can't drive, you're out of the game for maybe 8 weeks or something. It would be horrendous, as a single mum and a business and everything. I just think, God, that's my
not
biggest
small fear. Emma. Breaking your bones is not small.
Okay. But it could a small thing could lead to it. Is what I mean. It could happen, slip downstairs, done. So I don't know why. It always bothers me, that thought.
Has anybody else got a what if they want to share? Angie?
What if I'm so poorly I can't work? Or a man band?
Yeah.
Terrifying thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the same for me.
Yeah. Keith? Mute.
Yeah, I think
what if for me would be, what if one of my largest customers went out of business? Because I have several customers who pay me a reasonable amount of money a month, and if one of those suddenly disappeared, then I have a problem. Now, part of that, of course, you can be more resilient by not having just one, and that I think is crucial, to see if you just rely on one customer, you're putting your peril in their hands, really. But the other thing that I've learned, particularly in the last year, I guess, with everything that's gone on, is also helping your customers grow their business, because ultimately you want them to stay in business just as much as they want you to stay in business. And so I've got one client I'm thinking of right at this moment, where by working with them, we've realized there's a market for what they do in Ireland, which is a whole market they don't yet have. Now I want them to be successful in that, because A, it's more work for me, but B, I know then they're likely to be around for longer. And I think as well, the other part of that is, and maybe this is what this year has taught us as well, and I think customers are more alert to it now, is customers needing to realize that companies need to make profit to survive. And so it shouldn't be a race to the bottom in terms of pricing, because otherwise, you can be a busy fool. You can be incredibly busy but not making any money. And so I think that's a couple of things that I would add. Can I just first I'm talking, just say a quick update for everybody on the bit about VAT, which I mentioned in my talk last week. HM Revenue and Customs, Stu, woke up to the idea of what if there's more than £135. So they've now removed that cap. So it's now VAT on whatever.
Oh,
wow.
I should have shut up, Keith.
yeah.
I don't think we're used to, but it's
that's it. The HMRC are listening to us.
Yeah. It's worrying that things just change so quickly, though, with no warning, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the thing that I find really alarming. You just get your head around one thing, and then with no kind of real warning, it can change into something completely different.
It was one of the things I mentioned in my talk last week, Emma, was the fact that the government, particularly at the moment, is slipping through a lot of things in statutory instruments rather than full acts of Parliament, and just slipping them through on a Friday morning in the House of Commons when nobody's paying that much attention. And I personally, I don't like it. I think it's bad government, but
very unsettling.
It's what we're stuck with.
They did it with HMRC on VAT, and have allowed the HMRC to not only suspend or defer VAT payments, but to set new rates and any rates that they want for any category of business is completely in the hands of the HMRC for 3 months, which they then have a right to kick the can down the road and say we need another 3 months, and they can set that themselves. So there's a lot of flex. I get what you're saying, but I think there's a lot of flex in the system at the moment because there's a lot of uncertainty. If it's a problem for business staring into the future and going, we need to be resilient, think of that multiplied across an entire government. Now, whatever your political leaning is, if you're sat in that chair and you've got to pull the levers to make the country work, you throw a pandemic into that and leaving a major trading block. I'm sure there are people running around like headless chickens right now.
Yeah, I think you're right, Stuart. I mean, obviously, I can only speak from the experience of running or being at the top of a local authority, and knowing how much time and effort we're trying to spend at the moment to make sure the cash keeps flowing. And because some of it's put us in a situation we've never been in before. We had a meeting yesterday, actually trying to establish a realistic view of this year of how much council tax we will not collect. And that's not something we've really had to think about before.
No, I think part of the resilience piece is being very pragmatic, and I think the nature of people who are drawn to business is being pragmatic. They may have a dream, they may be idealists, they may be driven, but ultimately where the rubber hits the road is where you have to be pragmatic. I've only got this resource, I've only got this money, I don't have a team of 12. What do I do with the situation in front of me? So it's not burying your head in the sand. And I think that's where sometimes business owners go wrong, is they have an idealized world view of where their business is, and they don't actually see the practical, pragmatic sense of doing certain things. And I think Lee pointed it out, you know, they've been putting money away for a day when they may need it. And but I think that's a pragmatic approach.
There is, but sometimes that's driven, but putting your head in the sand is driven by fear. Yeah. And sometimes when you're fear and you're anxious and you're not looking after yourself, you can put your head in the sand because it becomes overwhelming and too much. So, you know, I think we should just look back on what Emma was saying as well. Look after yourselves, you know, take some time for yourself, because once you do that, you feel stronger. And when you feel stronger, you can start making really good decisions and doing it in a very pragmatic approach and doing the plan like Emma has set out today. And I think that it goes hand in hand. And often as humans, we don't look after ourselves, and that's when it all starts coming crashing down. So I think that's a really key point, is, you know, look after yourself. And the other thing, when you feel stronger in yourself, it's easier to deal with problems that you're facing.
Well, that is quite well covered by the mindset and motivation piece, especially the mindset piece. Yeah. And Emma said it as well, you know, make sure you're opening those letters and know the deadlines for HMRC.
Exactly.
And if you've got a stack of letters that are not being opened, there's usually a reason for it, that resistance of, oh, it's only ever going to be bad news. But it's not bad news. It's a state of play where you're at the moment. Doesn't make you a bad person. We've all had bad trading years. And just being pragmatic of, right, we've got to reduce our personal incomes so we can pay these things and do. Sometimes you just need to know how bad the situation is before you can start to put a plan in place that changes the course that you're on.
Oh, Sarah, sorry, you can go first.
Morning. Sorry,
Morning.
I was listening in. I was on a call. Lovely to see everybody. Couple of notes I've made from Emma's conversation, just what's been saying. I think there's very sound idea around things you can and can't control. You focus on the things you can control. There are a lot that's out of our control. I think everything that was done last year about if you're looking at the economy or looking at your business, and thinking about where to focus resources, everything that was done around shopping local, if you look at the bigger picture, I think that will continue. I think there will be restrictions. People will have it for their own well-being, for their security, you know, safety, wellness. Will be looking to shop and deal with people more locally. They will not be travelling far. It's going to become it's a bit of a habit, you know. So I think that continuing, if you're going to refocus on something that maybe hasn't worked first time, I also think that connects up with that almost like delayed gratification. This is, we want results, you know, and obviously it's really tough if you're not getting anything through the door. But I think the self-belief that what you do in your business is right, you've been doing it brilliantly. And just keep on doing those little things. And I do think that we need to be agile, adaptable. That's what small businesses are. That's what gives us the edge over bigger businesses. And maybe just tweaking some of the things that you've already got, just to you know, make them a little bit more accessible to your customers, or just thinking a little bit more. Again, I know it's all changeable, but I believe you don't have to change too much to be getting going again very quickly for your customers, because you've already done it. You've already done it. And this is like a pause. So that was my thoughts. And the what if, you know, what if, that's probably the biggest thing, you know, what if we can't predict, the landscape is not settled yet. So as long as I don't have my bad dream coming true of my coffee not being in the cupboard when I wake up in the morning, that's my biggest.
Oh my God!
Fear, you know,
I hadn't even considered that one.
Coffee beans not being. But that was, you know, that was that encouraging people now to come back to you as soon as possible, keeping up those contacts. It's hard because we've already done it. But I think more now than ever, if you do it now, we're more likely to be, you know, better in a better position, because you did it last year. So repeat it this year with your customers, and I think they'll come back to you.
It must be quite hard, you know, if you're in industries like you are, Sarah, in recruitment, where, you know, so little has been happening, to keep that motivation going, to keep picking up the phone, you know, even now in 2021 with the 9 months that we've got behind us. It must be very hard to kind of bring yourself up to the point where you feel like picking up the phone to potential customers and old customers.
It's what's relevant to people. That's the thing with the landscape changing. You can be saying things that are not relevant to the market and to clients now. You know, and things are delayed. Everything we thought was going to be coming back in, but it's only for a short period of time. Yeah, so look after yourselves now, you know, and be ready and keep doing little bits. And my friend had a very good bit of advice for me when I was going crazy. She said, just chip away at it a little bit every day, Sarah.
It's those daily habits, definitely. Little something.
Lorna's had to leave, but she left us with her learning from last year, and it was that being proactive about staying in touch with all their customers and continuing to support them through the pandemic. And that is entirely down to one of the areas that Emma spoke to, nurturing key relationships.
Yeah, definitely, even when nothing's going on. Shayna.
Quite interesting listening to everyone, because obviously my business setup is quite different, having lots of businesses, but what I've realized is that actually plays very much to my strengths, and that I do have a bit of a tendency to catastrophize. And I think if you've had a challenging childhood or a challenging background, that tendency to see things as a complete disaster is sort of quite heavily inbuilt. But in having several businesses, that is less triggered by, you know, if you're just looking at one business, it's so easy to think the whole thing is gone. Whereas actually having lots of businesses means that I've always got something, and that tendency to catastrophize and then start micromanaging when actually there's very little you can do, but just let it run, I have less tendency to do that, because there's just so much else to do. And so, in fact, my resilience is not in the individual businesses, it's in having lots of different businesses. And last year, there was a point in which, you know, the 5 income streams I had, or 6 possibly, 5 looked like they were going to dry up. I was going to be left with child benefit as my sole income. You know, it's like, and I had that moment of, this cannot be happening. You cannot disaster plan to that degree and still have no income. And it didn't. It all came good. But and I've been thinking a lot about that, about having other forms of income, not being completely reliant on one. And, you know, we talked in the past a lot about passive incomes and how you can generate those. And I think moving online, I mean, I haven't done as amazingly well as Susan, but I did double, my jewellery doubled. It's its 2nd full year of trading. You know, my graph at the end of the year looked like the COVID graph. My daughter actually said, "Contacts, please," when I showed it to her, because it was so steep in November and December, because people have not got much to do, actually, and they're a bit bored and they want a bit of a treat. But I think it's knowing yourself too that builds into that resilience. What works, and where you're likely to trip yourself up, where you're likely to get so scared you bury your head in the sand and don't actually face the fear.
Can I ask what would happen if all 5 businesses suddenly took off? Like the opposite happened. Is that a threat? Because would you be overwhelmed? So it's 5 income streams.
Yeah. So the tenant is a fixed tenant, and he's there, and I know he's there for the next 3 years. So that's the first one. The jewellery, that's quite straightforward. I can extend my delivery times. I can pause the shop. I can take a holiday, and people do that when they get overwhelmed. So that's an Etsy shop, and that's all well set up, so that's okay. The centre it's finite. There are only 4 treatment rooms, one of which is out of action thanks to it's too small and current circumstances, which is how I was building the business. It's like, you know, really frustrating. Can only really work with 4 treatment rooms. We can't use one of them. But you know, so there's a finite thing there, and that's a really established business, so that's less it's less of a learning curve in that sense. So,
okay.
in that
So the
sense,
scalable one is the jewelry.
yeah, the one that could, but there are so many mechanisms in place for that. And in some ways also it's the most frivolous. So if I have to pause it, and if that takes a bit of a hit, at the moment that doesn't feel like a huge problem. If the growth continues as it's continuing, next year that might look quite different. You know, in December it was my single biggest source of income.
Wow.
Yeah,
so
wow.
then everything starts shifting. It's really quite interesting.
I noticed that Lee's raised his hand. Lee, you want to come back on something?
Yeah, all I was going to say was that, in fact, I think Emma alluded to it really, the what ifs don't have to be negatives. What ifs also planning for the positives as well. And what I'd sort of say to you now is, if by some miracle tomorrow all lockdown was lifted, all shops are back open, everyone was allowed out and back to normal pubs and everything, are you ready? You know, have you got everything in place to be on the front foot? Because if you're not, your competitors will be. You know, so you've got time now to plan the what if. When it opens up, are you ready? Have you got everything in place? And that's another good one. And that's what we're sort of thinking about now.
Nice positive way to look at it. I think I've got another question card here, which is, will this year herald a 21st century rerun of the Roaring Twenties? And if so, is your business ready? So a similar thing to what you were saying there, Lee. Shana, yeah.
We have slightly different challenges in that we're open, so we're constantly reacting. So at the moment, the figures are so scary. We're having clients cancel left, right and centre. We've had 2 near misses last week, so practitioners are now jittery. So I'm actually trying to manage all sorts of things all the time, and I really haven't had much time off since May. So I'm, you know, you're talking about coming back refreshed. I'm absolutely shattered. But you know, it had been improving, and then all that stuff just before Christmas, as professional bodies had already closed. I mean, that's been my single biggest struggle, is actually the disaster planning from the government has been really poor, because the information has come out so late, so often, that it's made it really difficult to react as a business. So you'll get people ringing and you say, I'm sorry, I can't tell you. We haven't had the information yet from professional bodies.
Yeah, that can be difficult if you're relying on insurances and guidelines from professional bodies and the government guidelines. If they're not concrete, clear, concise and timely, then it can be really hard to plan.
But at least we know to expect the unexpected from this government, so at least we've got that. They're
keeping us on our toes.
They're keeping us, if they say something definitely is going to happen, you can more or less assume that it isn't. So there's that, isn't there? So yeah, and also if they're saying that, so if Boris tells you that somebody's doing a really good job, they're not long for that job.
You know they're about to be fired.
I think one thing that we can say for the whole of last year is that we've all learned so much. I mean, I've literally learned so much in the last year. I learned about myself. I've learned about things that I've always been scared of, i.e. technology and stuff like that. I've learned so much. And I just feel more prepared. I feel really, and you know, going back to what Lee's saying about, you know, are we ready? I'm really ready, because I've learned so much. I'm not hiding in the wings. If I don't know about it, I figure it out. I learn, and I think a lot of us have all learned over the last year. So we should pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe that's where this idea of the Roaring Twenties, this is where it's all going to begin, because we've all, and I would say that all the Signal team have learned a lot, and it's not because we've had any time off either. We haven't had any time off either. We've learned on the job, but maybe because we've all learned, you know, so much about what we want out of life over this last year. Maybe that is what's going to give birth to this new era of people, you know, living the life they actually want to live. I don't know if that's something that people have considered.
Yeah, we are drawing to the end. Has anybody got any specific questions to ask Emma about her talk? Is there anything in her talk you want to clarify? Has anybody got anything else that they want to ask?
Somebody did ask about where the strategy map was available, and it will be available. If it's not already, it will be available in the resources section of the website. If anybody needs help navigating that, do just give one of us a ring. We'll talk you through it. Shana?
I just wanted to make a point about climate change priorities, which we've been working on really hard at the centre, and unfortunately the pandemic has completely driven a coach and horses through that. We're having to wear so much plastic, masks, gloves, aprons for every practitioner, change between every client. The amount of rubbish we're throwing out is horrendous. It's just awful, and it's so challenging. And, you know, we've come up with workarounds, but the insurance companies won't let us use them. So, you know, I come up with reusable aprons that we can make sure are completely sterile, but that's not the requirement. The government requirement is a new apron for every person. So we're really going to struggle. And my concern is that how that gets dialed back. Who starts to say, oh, you don't need to wear those anymore? Who's going to say that? Because
maybe that's something I should feed back through the CBI. That's as a concern.
Yeah.
Sheila.
I save all single-use plastic, and when I've got an appointment, take it down to the local tip, because if you put that rubbish in that bin, they generate electricity with it. Can that happen with all your plastic, Shana?
Yeah, we have to also store it for 72 hours before we're allowed to put it in the rubbish. In theory, we're supposed to double bag everything. I've done my risk assessment on that, and I just cannot see why a second bag makes any difference over a first bag. So
not with 72 hours, no. But believe me, you have to wait more than 72 hours before you get an appointment at the tip.
Yes, so it goes through commercial rubbish.
Oh, does it? Right.
So,
right. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what happens beyond that.
I've got a couple of things here on climate. So unfortunately, I was hoping to have these links and be able to put them in the chat, but because I've got my notes on a different device, I can't do it. But there's a BSI talk on how businesses can contribute to Net Zero UK, which I guess I will put in the BiZHUB group after this talk. It's a talk, it's on the 18th of January. It's free, and there's also, I've got here a great article here on BBC about the role of business in in reaching our net zero, our goals for the country. So I'll put that link in the BiZHUB group as well. There's quite a lot of really interesting information in those two about how as small businesses we can contribute.
I noticed one question in the chat that didn't get answered, and it was asked by Matt of Sue. What do you sell, Sue? Matt was interested in hearing what you sold. We didn't get any context over that. Sorry to make you unmute again.
Come on, Sue, you can do it.
You can do it.
Oh, having a help. The back.
Come on.
There we go.
Sorry. What do I sell? I want to say homeware and gifts, which is what I used to say. It is homeware and gifts. I sell anything and everything, and I used to be really particular about selling things that I really liked myself and I would buy myself. Now I don't do that. I just sell what sells. So hanging monkeys which hang from trees in your garden, sloths, candles, what else do I sell? Lots of garden equipment and decorations, but pretty much anything. I do my research, I find out what sells, and I sell it.
Thank
so
you.
I'm not fussy. I'm not proud anymore.
I tell you, a really good way of just, you know, finding out what the other members in the group do. Go to the website and have a look in the on the BiZHUB and look at BiZHUB members, because everybody's listed there with their website and all that. It's a really good way to get to know what other people do, and then, you know, have connections with people, and, you know, use the BiZHUB WhatsApp for that, and you know, talk to people.
Cool. Thank you.
I saw a couple of really good things happen in the WhatsApp group for the BiZHUB this week. So I saw Lee going in there and setting up a load of one-on-ones through the BiZHUB groups. Brilliant. I saw Paul from Caribou go in and ask if anyone was available to create a little focus group to sense check something, which I know Lisa got involved with. And, you know, that's what the WhatsApp group is for. It's brilliant to see it working so effectively, and it's wonderful to see you all sort of collaborating and using it. If anybody's not in it for any reason, if there's been some oversight, please do let us know. But otherwise, yeah, carry on using it like that. It's brilliant.
I've popped a link in the chat to the members page specifically. So if you want to go and have a look at your own profile and remind yourself or other people's, that's where you go.
Emma, can I just ask a quick question on what you talked about in the talk, the SIFE, the CY.
Oh, yeah, the dashboard.
Is that a paid for service, or is that free?
Paid for service? It's paid for service. Yeah, yeah. There
I
is a
think
free
it starts
version,
at
but it didn't work for me. Huh?
I said I think it starts at $29.
Something. It's not. You know,
really good.
Unthinkably expensive, but I just really like it.
Yeah.
It's probably nice to have if you're really bootstrapping.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great to be able to see the relationship between the marketing campaigns and the money and the Google Analytics all in one page. So yeah.
If you are, like Emma says, bootstrapping, you might want to use Trello and set yourself up some KPIs and keep them manually. So at least you've got them all in one place that you can go. And Trello is free, and it's a useful tool for planning anyway. But you know, go and have a look and use the tools that give you the best insight into your business.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, what a great session. Lots learned, lots discussed, lots to think about. We'll pop all of the content into the website as soon as this recording is finished and we've got it edited up. I will do that as a priority. We'll pop all the resources in, and if you've got any further questions that crop up or as you're going through it, do send them through to us, the team, work@signalborden.org, and we'll make sure that Emma sees them and replies to them as they come in. Yeah, and you'll have a chance to look at the strategy map next week as well. Apparently they're making an interactive PDF. I'm just saying that out loud.
Wow.
It's going to be an interactive PDF that you can actually write in and expand boxes within. So, you know, it's new. It's new. It's happening.
Excellent. Yeah. Sarah, you got your hand up.
Sorry, I was clicking on chat.
Oh. I thought you had a comment or observation. Well, it's a timely interruption by Sarah, because before we go, how many people have had a true belly laugh this last few months? And I've got to say that the email that Sarah sent through to us, I shared with the group, with the team.
Caused a lot of hilarity.
Chuckling about it. Every time I think about it. So I'm going to show you, with Sarah's kind permission, the video that she sent us. So please bear with me whilst I set this up. And I am hoping that this sets you up for the weekend, like it set us up.
Oh, it's the weekend. God.
Yeah.
Oh yes, of course.
Wow.
It is. Wow, forgot that.
Back in 2021 with a bang.
Okay. Let me see.
Depends on what they used to be, though, are they?
No.
Let me see if I can.
It's very different.
Very different. Yeah. I've got a family chess tournament this weekend.
Can you see that? Are you able
to
see that?
We can see that.
Okay, so to set the scene, we had an award ceremony. It was a very tongue-in-cheek award ceremony. Our final hub on the 18th of December, and Sarah won the award for most likely to speak on screen when muted. I'll hand you over to Sarah now.
Yes. Lovely. Lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's brilliant, Sarah.
Literally.
That's how I watch Funny Johnson on TV.
Sarah. I was underneath my desk fiddling with the back of my computer trying to make the sound work.
I I was transferring it from one computer to another computer because I thought my laptop was broken. I was trying to figure it out. I was plugging in different things, and then I was messaging Emma and saying I haven't got the sound. We did laugh a lot. It was very funny. Well done, Sarah.
Thank you very much for that.
I enjoyed it. Funny. Made me laugh.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you so much for attending and being part of our second session for 2021. As always, any questions, any feedback, please do send it through to us. It's the only way we have wins and we have learnings. Lou, do you have anything finally that you want to?
Yeah, again, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you to Vicky, who's here today as a guest. It's her first BiZHUB visit, but she's actually moving into Martinique House on Monday. So she's our brand new resident. I don't know whether you just want to say hi to everybody, Vicky, and just briefly introduce and say what you do.
Hiya. I'll try. I'm a little bit lack of confidence, I think, with what I do. I've had an education consultancy business going for a couple of years now that I've switched between sort of when I've been teaching and when I haven't. So working with parents of younger children, working with schools, working with businesses to try and give learning a real purpose. This is a time of year where it should really be taking off with everything that's happening. I'm hitting quite a few barriers with schools and parents, and hoping that by becoming part of the group, being part of Signal, I can try and, as I've heard lots of you talk about pivoting and things, and hopefully try and really sort of focus on where I'm going with it and what I'm really passionate about. So I'm looking forward to it. It's been really good to meet you all today.
Welcome to the family. So Vicky's going to be in the Emperor, which in the side Emperor, which is next to where Sarah and Suzanne are. So Sarah Bass is in the desk next to yours. So yeah, welcome to Signal. Brilliant.
Fantastic.
I don't think anything else. It's just LinkedIn Local next Tuesday. Hoping that all of you will make that. It would be great to see lots of you there. And yeah, thank you for coming. And most importantly, thank you to Emma for today. It was an exceptional talk, really, really inspiring, really good. And yeah, gives us all food for thought. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Emma, for that.
Excellent. Okay, everybody, go be your best ever you that you can be next week, and report back and tell us all about it when we do wins and learnings. Send it through to us. Vicky, if you want to hang about, we'd love to hear a little more about what you do. But everybody else, go have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Friday for the collaboration session.
Collaboration
session. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.